The Dothraki do things in their own time for their own reasons.
The nomadic horse-riding warriors, the Dothraki, speak to two central questions in Game of Thrones: what it means to be truly strong, and why it's dangerous to underestimate those who are different from you. At many points, Game of Thrones is a story of cultural differences.
All you lot from south of the wall, you Southerners. But now you're in the north. The real north.
Groups clash not just for territory and power, but also for the dominance of their way of life. While cultural differences between the Starks and the Lannisters may be more nuanced,
We allow the Northerners too much power. They consider themselves our equals.
the Dothraki are the group that draws our attention in the most extreme way to what difference looks like.
Rakara say you should take ear to teach respect.
The Dothraki live across the narrow sea from Westeros on the continent of Essos, roaming grass-filled plains on horseback. To the Westerosi, this group is the other, as foreign as it gets, so they're dismissed as inferior savages.
Karth did not become the greatest city that ever was or will be by letting Dothraki savages through its gates.
These nomadic warriors speak their own language, which is a real language, by the way.
He, she, it, throat rips.
Fourth, Agada.
Louder, you're shouting it from the back of a horse.
What? Agada!
And they don't even have words for many things Westerosi value.
Vi vos adore me throne.
They have customs that Westerosi view as primitive and strange.
She has to eat a whole heart.
Yet we come to see that the characters who write the Dothraki off are making a big mistake.
Pile of mud. Mud and shit and twigs. Best these savages can do.
These are my people now. You shouldn't call them savages.
While because Daenerys is open-minded enough to learn the Dothraki ways, she's empowered by the Dothraki strength.
You are a horse lord slut!
I am a Khaleesi of the Dothraki.
So through this group, the show is making a larger point about the power we unlock if we accept that other cultures can teach us a thing or two. Now that the Dothraki have done the unthinkable and crossed the narrow sea, the Lannisters have seen them deliver on their reputation as fearsome warriors.
I just saw the Dothraki fight. They'll beat any mercenary army. They'll beat any army I've ever seen.
Looking ahead to Season 8, the Dothraki pose a fierce problem for Cersei, the White Walkers, or whoever else stands in the way of Daenerys taking the Iron Throne.
The Dothraki are coming.
Before we go on, we want to talk about this video's sponsor. Skillshare is an online learning community where you can learn everything from video editing to business strategy, coding, or lucid dreaming. They offer 25,000 online classes from famous teachers at the top of their field. And right now, Skillshare is offering our viewers 2 months access to all their classes for free. So click the link in the description below to sign up now. The Dothraki values can be summed up in one word: strength.
The Dothraki follow only the strong.
Other communities in the Game of Thrones world might respect honor, bloodline, or political game playing, but this group is all about physical power and fighting prowess.
This isn't Westeros where men honor blood. Here they only honor strength.
The most distinguished Dothraki wear long braids as trophies of their victories.
When Dothraki are defeated in combat, they cut off their braid so the whole world can see their shame. Khal Drogo has never been defeated.
This is a way of making a person's battle record visible and symbolizes that power in this group is not inherited, but earned.
You would turn me into one of them, wouldn't you? Next I want to braid my hair.
You've no right to a braid. You've won no victories yet.
That power is also not permanent. While a king in Westeros can sit on the throne as he grows old and fat, if a Dothraki Khal loses his strength, he is no longer Khal.
They'll be fighting after Drogo dies. Whoever wins that fight will be the new Khal. He won't want any rivals.
At the start of the series, most people across the sea from Essos don't consider these nomads a serious threat.
Even 1,000,000 Dothraki are no threat to the realm, as long as they remain on the other side of the narrow sea.
Dothraki don't sail. Every child knows that. They don't have discipline. They don't have armor. They don't have siege weapons.
But it's telling that King Robert Baratheon does fear them.
The Targaryen girl convinces her horse lord husband to invade. And the Dothraki horde crosses the narrow sea, we won't be able to stop them.
Once a legendary warrior, Robert sits on the Iron Throne because he was once the strongest man in the Seven Kingdoms. So while he may not understand much about being a good king, he knows what he's talking about when it comes to the battlefield.
If she has a son, a Targaryen at the head of a Dothraki army, what then?
And Robert essentially predicts what does happen.
There's a war coming, Ned.
Even if he's not around to see it, and it's Daenerys who leads the Dothraki army, rather than her son, brother, or husband. To explain the power of a Dothraki-Targaryen alliance, Robert asks Cersei which is the bigger number, 5 or 1?
One army, a real army, united behind one leader with one purpose.
The Dothraki are a unified people, ripe for a visionary leader to organize them behind a purpose. And Robert understands that the Dothraki are uniquely powerful because it's not just that they don't fear battle, they have a wholehearted passion for it.
Killing our men wasn't war for them, it was sport. Most armies are either sellswords, paid to fight, who often refuse to die, or peasants called up from the fields and hovels. How long would those armies stand against the charge of 100,000 screamers howling for blood?
As we see in Season 7, the Lannisters' formidable, well-trained soldiers are no match for these mighty warriors. Fittingly, Daenerys' journey with the Dothraki is about becoming strong herself. When the show begins, we're dropped with her into this clan, totally ignorant of its ways. The Dothraki seem a barbaric obstacle she must endure or escape. But Daenerys takes it on herself to understand this culture. And through this, she is empowered to harness her own strength, transforming from victim to Khaleesi.
You're learning to talk like a queen.
Not a queen. A Khaleesi.
So long before she ever discovers that fiery Targaryen within her. The empowered, confident leader we come to know is born through channeling Dothraki strength.
The Dothraki followed strength above all, Khaleesi. You'll have a true Khalasar when you prove yourself strong, and not before.
We might note, too, that the Dothraki braids stay central to her hairstyle long after Season 1, in contrast to the loose, free-flowing mass of hair she starts with. Ultimately, this culture's respect for strength takes precedence over everything, even their deeply held traditions. While at first they reject the thought of a female leader, eventually they do follow Daenerys because she proves her strength. While most desert her after Khal Drogo's death, a smaller contingent stay with her after she emerges from Drogo's funeral pyre unscathed. Later, when she's captured by the Dothraki, she's sent to join the Dosh Khaleen, or Council of Crones, the group of former Khaleesi, or wives of deceased Khals who rule over the Dothraki's only city. Yet again, she overcomes the restraints of custom when she burns the Khals, and her superior strength wins the support of the Dothraki at large. In addition to strength, Daenerys' story with the Dothraki is about dealing with an other. Daenerys' arrogant brother Viserys refuses to understand the group's culture.
What's this?
It's a gift. I had it made for you.
Dothraki rags.
He spouts empty declarations that he's their king without showing any of the strength which is all the Dothraki respect.
I want the crown he promised me.
And insults them through threats to their Khaleesi, the sister he still thinks he owns.
He bought you, but he never paid for you. Tell him I want what was bargained for, or I'm taking you back.
All this eventually provokes his own death. Meanwhile, as we've seen, Daenerys becomes powerful as she takes care to understand the Dothraki ways. But she also makes big mistakes in failing to respect their culture totally. There's a dark side to the Dothraki's strength, as we see when they rape and pillage a village in Season 1.
These men have shed blood for their Khal, now they claim their reward.
Daenerys is appalled by this violence and puts a stop to it.
You have a gentle heart, but this is how it's always been.
I do not have a gentle heart, sir.
Although not before great damage was done, as the witch Miri Mazdur later explains.
3 of those riders had already raped me before you saved me, girl.
This sequence of events may seem black and white, as we applaud Daenerys' will to challenge and change inhumane practices, but the show eventually uses this plot to reveal complex, gray lessons about cultural difference. For one thing, the reason the Dothraki attack that village is to obtain slaves to trade for ships to help Daenerys pursue the Iron Throne. So she's complicit, even though she didn't realize by pushing her husband to help her, this is what she was asking for.
I thought
the Dothraki didn't believe in money.
Gold to hire ships, Princess. Ships to sail to Westeros.
Moreover, while she's right to protest violence, she seems to take this pillaging incident as a unilateral sign that the Dothraki are primitive and not to be listened to. She becomes more and more like her brother in obsessing about the Iron Throne.
My brother was a fool, I know, but he was the rightful heir to the Seven Kingdoms.
And assuming she knows better, even though she's still new to this world.
Fishy me achan oziza. Shikal drogo ache achan.
Finally, she ignores their warnings against blood magic, hastily agreeing to a ritual to try to save Drogo's life.
This is blood magic. It is forbidden.
I am your Khaleesi. I tell you what is forbidden.
And this is a mistake that ends up costing her everything.
Show me what I bought with my son's life.
Many houses have an animal on their sigil that symbolically expresses their nature, but the Dothraki's animal is an essential part of their way of life. Their whole identity as a people is centered on riding horses. In fact, the word Dothraki means riders.
If the saddle Lord Tyrion designed actually works, you could learn to shoot a bow from horseback.
Really?
Dothraki boys learn when they're 4 years old.
Their god is the Great Stallion, and they call their future leader the Stallion who will mount the world.
A stallion who mounts the world. The stallion is the Khal of Khals. He shall unite the people into a single Khalasar.
When she's pregnant, Daenerys has to eat a horse's heart to empower her future son.
Hope that wasn't my horse.
The Dothraki actually eat horse flesh, which they believe makes people strong. Horses are herd animals, and the herd is often led by a stallion, just as the Dothraki consist of groups called Khalasars, led by a Khal. The Dothraki's long braids look like manes, and the Dothraki embody a kind of wild beauty that horses have. They also embody the qualities of power and hard work evoked by expressions like as strong as a horse, eat like a horse, or being a workhorse. Equus, the word for the horse family, comes from the ancient Greek word for quickness. And the Dothraki are all about speed on the battlefield, which is why they don't wear armor. The Dothraki warriors are so comfortable on horseback that they even bring to mind centaurs, the creatures in Greek mythology who were half man and half horse. Essentially, the Dothraki are one with their horses. The show drives this point home when, in a bargain to save Drogo's life, Daenerys agrees to let the witch kill Drogo's horse. Not understanding, the witch is really planning to take her unborn baby too.
Only death can pay for life.
This scene makes us feel the horror of the horse's death, and it feels as if killing the horse would inevitably kill Drogo too.
He lives. You asked for life. You paid for life.
This is not life. When will he be as he was?
Without his horse, Drogo can't be Drogo, nor a Khal, nor even a Dothrak, as he is no rider.
Why don't you take a look at your Khal? Then you will see exactly what life is worth. When all the rest has gone.
It's also significant that while the Dothraki are warriors, the animal they honor is a non-violent herbivore that's primarily a functional means of transport. This mirrors how the Dothraki don't really have a power lust or desire to rule and subjugate. While they take slaves, this is only done if they need to trade them for other resources. Drogo doesn't understand the Targaryen obsession with the Iron Throne. It's only after he sees his beloved Khaleesi's life threatened that he decides to help defeat her enemies, for the sake of their unborn son. We can also see the Dothraki's peaceful tendencies in the way they forbid bloodshed and weapons in their city, Vice Dothrak.
Don't let them see you carrying a sword in Vice Dothrak. You know the law.
The Dothraki don't have official colors, but they are represented with earth tones, especially browns. This reflects that these people are deeply connected to the land.
A traveler on the Dothraki Sea will find few villages and no farms, because the Dothraki view it as a sin to cut into their Mother Earth with plows and shovels.
The Dothraki are nomadic. The earth itself is their home.
The Dothraki never stay still for long.
Game of Thrones author George R.R. Martin has said that the Dothraki are partially inspired by real-life groups like the Huns, the Mongols, steppe tribes such as the Magyars, and Native American plains tribes. The Dothraki city,
Vice Dothrak, city of the horse lords,
is in the grassland region, ironically named the Dothraki Sea.
Named not for its waters, but for how freely its conquerors roam upon it.
This grass is one of their greatest resources.
The Dothraki have two things in abundance: grass and horses.
Grass is known for its hardiness in the face of the elements.
Grass can survive some of the harshest conditions on Earth. Flood, fire, and frost, and still flourish.
Likewise, the Dothraki are tenacious and refuse to give up easily. The Dothraki are afraid of water.
They fear any water their horses can't drink.
So this is another way that they are bound to and completely dependent on the earth. In Season 3, we see how the Dothraki on Daenerys' ship are terribly seasick, as if they're hardwired to stay on land.
They're the first Dothraki who've ever been on a ship. They followed me across the poison water.
We might read this as showing how Daenerys challenges the Dothraki to grow beyond their set ways. The Dothraki's connection to Earth may also make us think of their earthly knowledge. They are defined by simple, down-to-earth intelligence and traditions that are rigidly passed down. Sometimes this manifests as a simplistic, ignorant view of the larger world. But at other times, their traditions hold a wisdom that's far more sophisticated than it seems. Just listen to Jorah describe this Dothraki prophecy.
They say there are fields of ghost grass with stalks as pale as milk that glow in the night. Mud is all other grass. The Dothraki believe that one day it'll cover everything. That's the way the world will end.
Though it's in the guise of basic folklore, this seems to predict the White Walkers, the idea of a dead thing that threatens to overtake the living. The Dothraki are also of the earth, in that they're natural and authentic. These people have something wild about them, as they act on instinct, rather than finding logical solutions to conflict or repressing their hot-blooded emotions. During the wedding scene, like Daenerys, we may be shocked when a fight erupts, resulting in a gruesome death.
A Dothraki wedding without at least 3 deaths is considered a dull affair.
Yet the irony is that the Seven Kingdoms are no better.
If the city falls, these fine women should be in for a bit of a rape.
Beheadings, torture, and sexual violence are run-of-the-mill in Westeros.
I was in King's Landing after the sack, Khaleesi. You know what I saw? Butchery. Babies, children, old men. There's a beast in every man.
It's just that this devious behavior is obscured by genteel manners, illusions, and political facades, which somehow make the brutality even more sinister. The Dothraki's primal behavior is out in the open.
The Dothraki think outsiders are ridiculous, taking shame in the naked body. They make love under the stars for the whole Khalasar to see.
And we might come to respect the Dothraki's openness and honesty, which others lack. In the books, the Dothraki consider it bad luck to touch the body of a slain person that they did not kill themselves. And this reminds us of a fundamental tenet of the Stark honor.
The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword.
So we can see that this culture too underlines the importance of taking responsibility and ownership for your own deeds. Through the Dothraki, we start to think about the way cultural differences define the larger Game of Thrones story.
My mother always told me you Westerosi were a grim lot. Grim, bearded, stinking barbarians that would row across the narrow sea and steal us from our beds.
We see how barriers and biases can stop us from getting to know people we might be able to learn from. And one of the most fun parts of watching the show is seeing what happens when characters from different corners of its world do come into contact and change each other forever.
Is that a palace?
It's a windmill.
Windmill.
The Dothraki casually reject ideas that are foundational to Westeros society.
There is no word for thank you in Dothraki.
The Dothraki don't believe in money.
And these facts get us thinking. How do you show gratitude if there's no language for it? How do you exchange value without a standardized currency? So the Dothraki teach us the importance of looking past appearances and appreciating each other's differences. Think of the origin of the word barbarian. It came out of an ancient Greek term meaning babbler and was used to refer to anyone who didn't speak Greek. So this word's etymology reminds us of how what we call primitive is really just other, outside our own culture. And Game of Thrones is a story that values outsiders above all. So the lesson the Dothraki teach us is to be open to the unfamiliar and to continue to challenge ourselves to see others' views in all their complexity. We never know what secret strength this might unleash in us.
My brother used to say the only thing the Dothraki knew how to do was steal things better men have built.
It's not the only thing. They're quite good at killing the better men.
This video is sponsored by SKILLSHARE, an online learning community we love. With over 25,000 classes taught by seasoned pros, SKILLSHARE has a class on pretty much anything you could want. You can develop your creativity through a class on calligraphy, graphic design, or writing. You can learn how to succeed in business with classes on how to make it as a freelancer, market a podcast, or become an Instagram influencer. You can use it to master new technology through classes on web design, coding, and data science. Or you can bring that extra flair into your lifestyle, sharpen your knife skills, learn paper making, speak Spanish. Or let Simon Van Boy, an award-winning author, teach you how to develop a successful writing habit. Right now, SKILLSHARE is offering our viewers 2 months access to all their classes for free. But that's only if you're one of the first 500 people to click the link in the description below. You don't want to miss this deal, so check it out today.